Interesting sounds, chord progressions, rhythms, inversions, all kinds of cool things going on. This is These Eyes, 1968 tune by the Guess Who had been kicking around for a few years, 5 or 6 years actually at that point, actually going all the way back to 1960 when Randy Bachman started the group with a fellow named Chad Allen, and they tried a lot of different things, worked on a few different names and stuff like that along with other things, released a few little bits and pieces, but really took a turn in 1966 when Burton Cummings replaced Chad Allen, and now we had the real core of what we think of as the Guess Who, and that was Randy Bachman and Burton Cummings. And it's Burton's voice that you hear on most of the tunes. Well, in 1968, they put out their first album, the first album with that configuration. So, let's forget it. Okay, anyway. And they really made a series that was called Wheatfield Soul. It came out in 1968 and included this tune, These Eyes. And this is about the only really big hit from this album, but the next three albums had 2 or 3 each, and they were really big from about 1968 to 1970 when they came out with 2 albums, American Woman and Share the Land. Share the Land had marked the departure of Randy Bachman, and things changed a little bit, and they kind of after that never rose to the same height, at least on the charts. But anyhow, what we're going to do in this song, in this lesson, is take a look. This song opens up, it's mostly keyboards. And this started with an idea of Burton Cummings. He was calling it These Arms at this point. And then Randy came up with what I'm going to refer to as the chorus, but it's a really unusual thing that keeps changing keys and keeps using inversions of chords that are, and anyway, we'll talk about that. We'll break down a little bit of the theory of this as we go. But again, really a keyboard tune, but that little keyboard riff that happens at the beginning, as you heard, translates very well to the guitar. Then the guitar comes in with some kind of normal chords that I played as bar chords. They don't need to be played as bar chords, but it gives you a little bit more percussive control over what they sound like in there. And really we just have a couple of sections. We've got the verse, which is this stuff. Second half of the verse, some strumming, and then what I would consider the chorus, where it gets a little bit more dissonant. Anyhow, it keeps running through different keys. Anyway, we will explore all of that as we tackle this. And in the right hand, we're going to use a little bit of a muffled or muting technique on just those couple of bass notes that happen in the beginning, partly to sound a little bit more like a bass guitar. Now, again, they did this on a keyboard. There was no muting effect on the keyboard, although so we're going to be adding that in anyway. We'll talk about the technique of getting this kind of sound out of your bass notes and the general qualities of the chords. So that's a little bit of the background and preview of what we're going to be looking at in this lesson on These Eyes. It's really more just a rhythm guitar lesson. I won't be singing this. Burton's tunes are just not in my wheelhouse. But I will be showing you all the parts that you would need for you to be able to strum through it and sing it, if you've got the pipes, to do These Eyes. That was the first segment of a multi-part lesson that I put together at TotallyGuitars as part of the Target program on These Eyes, of course, by the Guess Who, as I just mentioned. So you just saw all that. But fun song to play. Again, mostly a keyboard song, but some cool guitar strumming going on later on in the song. And more. And more. Anyway, really interesting what Randy Bachman put together, especially in that part, the chorus. Now, the first part was a little bit more Burton Cummings kind of idea and stuff, and the keyboard-oriented part. And that part you could start working on in the very beginning. It starts with a D minor 7 chord. Now, this is played at the 6th, 7th, and 8th frets. Played the 6th fret of the 2nd string, 7th fret of the 3rd string, and the 8th fret of the 1st string, with going from the 5th string to the 4th string in the bass. Now, in the lesson I talk about muting those bass notes, and there's a lot of stuff we cover in this in terms of all the theory of all the chords involved and stuff, but so you could work on palm muting those first 2 bass notes and get a really cool sound. Now the next chord is done with your 2nd finger starting on G at the 3rd fret of the 6th string. Got to use your 2nd finger because of the chord we're going to land on. Hit it the 3rd fret, slide it up to the 8th fret for a C, and then add notes on the 1st string at the 7th fret with your 1st finger, the 2nd string at the 8th fret with your 3rd finger, and the 9th fret of the 3rd string with your little finger. Now this is a major 7 chord, C major 7 specifically, which is what we have in the bass. And you just have to be careful not to hit either of the 2 open strings. That's the first thing that happens there. The second time around, it goes from G in the bass up to C again, but this time use your 1st finger because we don't want the major 7, we just want a C major chord. And play a normal bar chord at the 8th fret out of the E shapes. So that intro, the D minor 7 chord, the G to C, 2nd finger so you can get the major 7, and then your 1st finger, so you can get the full C. And do it again with a little, now let's mute the bass notes and hear what we got. So that's the intro. If you'd like, and the first part of the verse. If you'd like to see the rest of this lesson, it's available at Totally Guitars. We also have a lot of less complicated lessons, and some pretty complicated ones in our free lesson section. So if you just want to kind of explore and see some of the stuff that we have there and how lessons work at TG, be sure to check out the free lesson section, and most of those are available here at YouTube in the TG Free Lessons channel as well. So, but if you want to see the full lesson on These Eyes, and there's a few other Grateful Dead, Grateful Dead, holy cow, what is on my mind? That's in there too. Undone and American Woman, some other cool Grateful Dead songs, and some cool Guess Who songs. So, anyway, when you get a chance, come visit us at Totally Guitars.